It's Todd with the ESS. We're here to go over the maintenance of the wheel and paint trucks. First off, you got the maintenance binder. It comes with every truck. The most important thing on this binder is this phone number right here. That phone number goes straight to me. It's my cell phone. If you have any problems with this truck, anything happens with this truck, generator goes out on you, you have a question of anything, do not hesitate to call that phone number right there anytime, and you'll usually get a hold of me, or you leave a message and I'll get back with you as soon as possible, and we can go over problems with you. If you do have a problem, say like with the generator, give me a call so I can call our generator salespeople and tell them, and then they can contact the dealer that you're going to take it to. Start off with this book. Inside, go over some maintenance scenarios. That way you know what you can use with this thing. This is only a 7,000 kilowatt generator. It's about a 30 amp equivalent on each phase. So when we say that you can only run, say, one heat lamp, both exhaust fans and the compressor and the lighting, that's what we want you to do. One of our standard phone calls on this truck regarding power is that the breaker trips underneath on the generator. When I'll get down there and we'll show you where it's at so you can reset it. But if that continues to trip too many times, we'll wear out that breaker. So we don't want to do that. So we want to follow the scenarios that we've given you. And if you have any questions, again, phone number inside the book. You can call me anytime and I'll be glad to help you and walk you through that. As you go through the book, we have some maintenance scenarios. Maintenance scenarios with the compressor, maintenance scenarios with the generator. Go read through these also, but we're also going to talk about them and go through them today to help you out. As you go through the book, again, it has pictures, diagrams, it has everything written down on what you're supposed to use, how you're supposed to use it, what you're supposed to use. Pictures of the breaker, if it trips, that's underneath the truck. I'll show it to you. Pictures of where you can check the oil for the generator and where the fill is for the generator. Also, real up close pictures of where you change the oil on the generator. Maintenance forms. Please fill these out every week. Recommendation is Friday mornings is a great day to do your maintenance on the truck. That way if you have anything to pick up, do, or replace, you can do it through the weekend so that when you start off Monday, you're starting off fresh and fast. Another scenario for the generator also. Take care of your maintenance, get it all done so that if you have any issues, you have backup of when you touched everything and when you did everything. Another thing that you can do, Sharpie is your best friend. If you're doing maintenance on this stuff, you can also use the inside of the generator cover plate. You can start writing down in there every time you're in there. You can do annotate every week for your weekly maintenance inside the cover plate. I'll show you that. We'll go over that as we get down underneath the truck and look at the generator again. Also inside this book is locations. So for instance, this truck is going to go to Philadelphia. We want to put down the local roll air dealer there. That roll air dealer will either help you fix this generator or your air compressor, or it'll send you to a service center where we can get it fixed. Again, call me. Let me get a hold of roll air directly, and I'll walk you through this so it's as easy as possible. We've had instances lately where we've actually sent pumps and motors to the field for you guys to swap out if you have an issue. So our goal is to try to get these things either overnighted to you or second day air to you so you can be back up and running as soon as possible. Again, with the generator and parts locations and repair locations, I always recommend going to the full service locations. We have addresses and phone numbers for those locations. But again, once you pick the location that you're going to take this to, call me so we can get a hold of our sales rep so we can make it as painless as possible for you to take this truck in and get this truck back as soon as possible. In this book also, from Cummins, we have actually been authorized, and the installation of this generator is authorized. So these pages are in this booklet so that when you go to a repair center, that they can actually look at this and look at the testing and see that it is signed off by Cummins that this is an official installation. And lastly, when you're going through this book, a lot of phone calls I get is that the generator shuts off and you don't know what to do. Well, inside this book we have the operating manual. Page 29 of the operating manual is the troubleshooting page, and it has shutdown codes. It'll go over the blinks with you, and it'll tell you what to do. as you go through this page, is between 29, 30, and 31. It'll give you different code scenarios. The flashes will actually be on the remote start, which is inside the truck next to the hour counter. It will go through a scenario of the flashing, and again, if you know that code, when you call me, we can work through that scenario. So let's get underneath the truck and let's check out how to change the oil and check all the necessary parts of this truck. Okay. All right. So now we're down here underneath the truck. This is our generator. All the serial numbers and everything for the generator are right here on the face of the generator. This will tell you the model number, if it's gasoline, serial numbers for all your parts and problems. Up here we have the air filter, and on this air filter we have, pull this off because you'll be checking it for your air filter itself. But on the air filter also, if you lose your book, the air filter has generalized hours of when you should check and change everything. We recommend 100 hours because of the amount of running that this generator is going to be doing and because of the location of it. This is saying 150 hours to check. I'm suggesting about 100 to 120. That's basically a 30-day window to go ahead and change the fluids. But it is saying check the oil daily. So check the oil daily, and then every 30 days, which should be about 100 to 120 hours. There is an hour clock up on the remote start up top inside the truck that you can check, and it'll tell you when you should change the oil. When you're down here, you can easily unscrew the cap, which is on the pictures in the binder. This will help you check your oil. Make sure the truck is at a semi-level location. When you check this oil, it will have a full to an add line. This generator takes 2 quarts of oil. It's a 1540 is what we recommend, especially the viscosity for most of the guys around because of the heat. Even in the winter time, if you're going to adjust it, you can adjust it to a 1530 weight, but if you just want to stay consistent, the 1540 will work in cold temperature. Put that back in. Normally what I would suggest doing is when you check it unthreaded, so you'll pull it out, wipe it clean, stick it back in just till it's loose, pull it back out, check it. This right here is between half right now, so that's telling me that, when on my normal day, if I'm using the Friday, then I better add a quart or a half a quart or a little bit of oil to it there. One of our problems here is changing the oil. When you change the oil on this, no tools are needed to change the oil. Basically, you reach up. Right up here, there's a knob. It's on the book. It's in the pages there. You turn the knob counterclockwise. You just continue to turn it with your fingers here. Got your pan underneath here, and as you keep turning it here, you'll start to see oil flow out of the discharge tube, which is already on this generator. Let it drain out. Once it's done, turn it back clockwise. Tighten it back up. You're good to go. On your 30-day changes, your oil filter is right underneath here. You will need an oil filter wrench to change that. Same thing when you change the oil. All you have to do is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Turn it to the left, get it off, replace the oil filter. If you're doing it yourself, take a little bit of fresh oil, put it on your finger, rub it around the gasket, seal this thing back up. To the corner of the generator here, you have a fuel filter. Fuel filter is an every 6-month change. Pull the fuel filter off. It's right here, and you will need tools to do that, but again, it's a very simple thing. Fuel will flow, but it's only the fuel that's actually in the line at the time. So it won't continue to run because there's nothing pumping it to pull it out. So you will have a little bit of fluid coming out. You'll just have to pull your pan over and drain it into the pan. Also, some of the newer trucks are coming with a heat deflector. It is keeping the heat off of the reciprocating back into the generator. If your truck does not have a heat deflector, please give us a call. We'll send you out one, and we'll send you some screws so you can screw it in underneath here. If you have one and it was one of the newer versions of it and yours is all bent up, give us a call. I'll send you out another one. That's not a problem. One of the things that we do show a picture of in the book is this circuit breaker. It is a circuit breaker right here. That's an on and an off. Again, when you overload the system, the circuit breaker will trip, and you'll have to get underneath here and reset it. So always keep in mind of that. We have the wiring harness wires for the, you can also start the generator from underneath here if you need be, but most of the time everything will be from up top. Alright, so let's go check, let's fire this thing up, and let's fire up the air compressor, and we'll go do some maintenance on the air compressor. So after you're done doing all your maintenance checks on the generator and you're ready to go ahead and start it up, especially on the cold days, make sure we hold it down in prime. On the remote start here, we hold it down a couple seconds, get it to prime. You'll see the light will light up, and then you can hold it to the top. Fires right up. Again, we always recommend do not have anything left on inside the truck. The first and last thing you do in this truck is, before you turn that on, is make sure all your compressor switches are off and all your light switches are off. Make sure there's nothing running inside this truck. By leaving just the lights on and trying to start this generator up under load will deteriorate the breaker, and it'll also the regulator underneath inside the generator. The goal is to make this thing last a very long time. So now let's get up in the truck here. Turn on our lights. We have inside and outside lights. Fire up the lights. One question I always get is, what kind of light bulbs are we using inside these trucks? When you look at the light bulb itself, it'll have a number right here. Right here it says a Philips bulb, and it's an F32T8 DX. The DX is basically a daylight deluxe bulb. Sometimes you'll see these bulbs where they'll say F32 741 or a 750 or an 850. Those are a comparable number. What the last three numbers are, or three digits are, is the Kelvin, and the Kelvin is the color. And we're going for daylight white, so you always want to get something high. Above 41 is good, 50 is great, but when it goes to like a DX, when it uses a letter, that's usually a high output style bulb, and that's what we want to keep in this truck, daylight white. When you're doing wheels are in the daylight, that's where you're going to notice the color, so try to keep these as white as possible. We're getting ready to fire up the air compressor. I talk to you guys a lot in the field when we deliver these trucks. The number one thing you do before you fire up this air compressor is turn on your fan, and then you go to compressor. Let's check the oil on it first, and then we'll come back to that. Okay, we're up here at the compressor. This is also the second main part of this truck. Generator's first, because if you don't have power, you can't run anything. If you don't have air, you can't paint, you can't grind. So, the number one thing to check always before you run this truck every day is to make sure that you have oil in this pump, and make sure that the pump right there in the little red circle has the oil showing. My preference is with this truck, try to get the truck on a fairly level location. The pump does not like to work if you're too much slanted to one side or the other. You know, I hate to tell you that you might have to bring some extra stuff with you, but you as a technician know your locations. So if you need to grab a couple extra blocks of wood to throw under the front tires because you know you're going to go to a dealership where you're slanted down too much, put some blocks underneath the tires. Keep the truck as level as possible. Obviously, for safety reasons for you, it's best to have this truck as level as possible while you're working. Secondly, when you're working on this air compressor, always check the belt. Make sure that the belt is nice and snug and not flopping around. Make sure it has some good tension to it. If the belt's sloppy, it's not going to operate the pump properly, and the pump's not going to give you as much air as you need. These pumps are trying to pump out just over 10 CFM. We actually have a different pulley on this pump, which does not come stock. As you set this up, this also has another air gauge up top here, and it also has an on and off up here. We have had some guys say that the copper line here had some failure right here. This is a standard coupler. You can get them at Home Depot. It's the A203 is the nut, and the A201 is the interior coupler on it. It's a 1/2 inch or OD pipe, so you should have no problem with getting it over the counter at the Home Depot, $2.99 if there's a failure on it. Generally not. Again, call me. I'll give you the numbers if you need them. Also inside here we have an air filter. It's back in the corner here. It's got a wing nut on it. Always make sure that that wing nut is tight. Sometimes after 30 days of driving this thing and driving it around, running around, things will come loose. So always check the air filter. Make sure it's snug on there. Every 6 months, check the air filter as far as it getting too dirty, if it's pulling dust or not. The truck has a fan that's here that's got a duct to it that pulls air, so it's pulling air and it's trying to keep this thing cool. Heat is your enemy no matter where you are. So if this thing is getting hot all the time, the heat in here is going to basically start to wear down the motor and the pump, and it's also going to help create condensation, which is going to get now into the line, heading down the walls, heading through the system. To check the oil in the pump, all we want to do is reach in here. We want to grab this black knob. We want to spin it. Again, counterclockwise. Take it, open it up here, and this is how we're going to fill our oil. You may need a small funnel to do that, but it shouldn't be something, I always recommend either having like a small bucket or an oil pan with the funnel with your extra oil with you in the truck, just so you can do your general maintenance. Go ahead and put that back on there. When you change the oil in this thing though, make sure you leave this off and set it to the side. Grab your bucket. We put a hose on here for you, so you can hold your bucket with your hose down, and there's a valve, standard ball valve right here inside the unit. No tools needed again. Open the valve, it will drain, all your oil will come out. Wipe off the hose, put the hose back, refill, put your cap back on, double check that your oil is inside the little red circle there. Once you've checked it and it's inside the red circle, I always suggest turning it on, let it run for about a minute, turn it off, double check that you're still in the circle, make sure that the oil's already cycled through and gotten all the parts, and if you need to add a little bit more you can, and if you don't, you don't. The oil that's recommended for these compressors is going to be a 30 weight non-detergent oil. So big key thing is the non-detergent part of it. 30 weight viscosity. This thing will run forever. Alright, and last we're going to go over the air filters. We have our oil and water separators. The key thing is we want to turn the chuck off, bleed whatever air is out of the lines. No tools required. Turn the bracket, whole thing drops off. Double check inside. It does have a float valve in there, so it will drain automatically, but what I suggest you do oftentimes is jump in here, unscrew the filter. Once you get the filter unscrewed here, set that down, shake it, but open the valve. By opening the valve, you're trying to get all the water and all the gook out of the line. When you're done with it, screw it back in. And then do the other side. I always like to make sure that my clip is to the front. It's easy to get to. Again, grab this, turn it, little turn there. Now, and these are so long, you have to unscrew it with the cap here. Get these off to be able to pull the whole thing out, and then check to see if you have water inside there, and also check your filter. Make sure your filter is 100% in play. Works good. Open it up. You can see how this pressurized, and these will pressurize and lock in. Good indicator for this is always looking sight glass right here. It's blue right now. When it starts to change colors, goes to pink. That means you got water in there. You're having water in there. You gotta pull these things apart and check them and change them. If you're having a lot of water issues, you know you're in a bad condensation area, you might have to do this once a day. It might be part of your regimen in the morning. Last but not least, here's your regulator. You can actually adjust your pressure right here. Leave it there. It'll run through the rest of the truck, and you'll be good to go. Okay, one of our #1 problems is moisture in the lines. You guys got to make sure that when you're done working for the day, especially the guys up there in the Northeast, getting ready to hit winter here and things are going to start freezing, we've got to make sure that we drain the tank. So we always want to get down here on the passenger side of every truck. It doesn't matter if it's a wheel truck or a paint truck, is where your compressor drain is at. We label it for you so you can check it. Get down underneath here. Again, it's a simple ball valve. You just got to go ahead and reach it up, drain the air out, and you're good to go. Leave it open at night so nothing can build up in there and we don't have any expansion problems or contracting problems because the thing's all sealed.